Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering creativity. I'm Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Just a heads up, everyone, that my new book, Entangleism, The Small Science and Big Art of Loving Your Life, is out and available on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. I encourage you to check it out. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Ahmed Anzaldua, who serves as Artistic Director of Border Crossing. Ahmed, welcome to the show.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I am so excited to talk with you. Obviously, you have this wonderful, wonderful partnership with the Schubert Club, one of our great creative partners. And I thought I'd start off just first so that our audience can just get a better sense of this amazing work that you do. Could you tell us a little bit more about the scope of your work and a little more about border crossing?
Sure. So, Border Crossing started as a small thing with friends. It started in 2016. I was seeing a lot of rhetoric about immigrants out there in the world that I wasn't quite happy with. I am Mexican Egyptian, half Mexican, half Egyptian. And as a musician, I thought we need to have better stories told about my culture. So I gathered some musician friends. We started organizing concerts and just presenting music that told a story that was different from what most people were hearing. And now, 8 years later, we are a medium-sized nonprofit. We have a professional choir, a community chorus. We have two albums out there. We have a publishing arm where we publish musical scores. We've got, I think, 13 scores out there right now. So it involves a lot more people than me. So it's grown quite well in the last few years.
That's so well, and major congratulations. And also for anyone in our audience, what is the best way or for them to go online to potentially find the recordings or get more information?
Just go to our website, bordercrossingmn.org. You can find everything you want there. And we're also on social media, on YouTube, and you can find our two albums on your favorite streaming platform.
Great. Awesome. Awesome. So, and in terms of this scope, and obviously you've expanded in these wonderful ways, is there primary, right, like the times in which we find ourselves, right, it can often seem for many, especially artists who are and who especially want to reflect various cultural stories in their art making, are sometimes finding themselves either unable or extraordinarily challenged and trying to find their way during these times. And I guess what a twofold question, kind of given everything you've been able to build, kind of, do you have anything to share or to say to the artists who are tuning in to kind of help them on their path? And along with that, kind of, are there any additional ways that you can share of how this programming is manifesting? In other words, what would be an example of what one of your choirs is doing, or those types of things?
Well, I think my main advice to any artist or anyone running an organization or, in general, people, um, connection, and relationships. That's everything. And that's something I've learned over my time as a musician, both as a pianist and as a conductor, and also in my time as artistic director building a nonprofit. The idea that everything you do, justice work, artwork, it always comes down to people work, to relationship work. And often when we are being educated in our college environments, that's downplayed. I literally had teachers who would say, don't focus on the people, just focus on the music. And that's not how it works. Every piece of music that you do is about a person, a connection, a relationship. And when you focus on that, I think it makes living in this world right now a lot more bearable. It makes it that you're not alone and you're telling a story and you're connecting. And, as far as how things manifest, um, typically for me, programming is about finding those stories that you tell, that you can tell about a person or people or relationships. Because every program you do in classical music and any music tells a story. And often the story is this great white composer was great. That's the story. And I think we can do so much better than that. So, one of our most celebrated programs in the last few years is something we call El Mesías, which is a mashup of Handel's Messiah with Navidad Nuestra by Ariel Ramírez, Argentine composer. They both tell the Christmas story. And then what I did is that I took Handel's Messiah and translated some of it so that half of it was in Spanish, some of it was in English, and we mashed up the instruments so that you had the flutes and the accordions and the guitars from Navidad Nuestra playing in the Baroque orchestra, and the violins and harpsichords of the Baroque orchestra playing in Navidad Nuestra, and we would like alternate movements. And what ended up happening is that the folks that were listening, that were coming to it with the connection to Navidad Nuestra, were finding all these connections in Handel's Messiah that they didn't even knew they were there. And the people that just knew Handel's Messiah were finding all these connections with this Latin American folk-inspired piece that they also didn't know it was there. So in the end, it is about creating connections, stories, relationships, and that I say would be like a fairly good encapsulation of the best programming that Border Crossing does.
I absolutely love that. And kind of as you described, kind of this mashup, and where it seems that you're able to bring in, if you will, all audiences, and audiences, whether they're coming from a more traditional background or other, or their, community and cultural background, and that you have a place where both communities, if you will, start from and feel already a connection. And then through that, their artistic, appreciation, engagement, immersion becomes expanded. Is that kind of right? Like kind of that strategy behind?
Totally. And, a lot of the time it's very intuitive. It's not something that you plan out, but it happens as you explore the music, as you connect with the musicians and the community where you're performing. So a lot of the time it's just sort of following where the story takes you. I think that as a conductor especially, but I think any artist, the kernel of what we do is here's this really cool thing that I want to tell you about. Here's this really great story. I want you to know. I love it. I want you to love it. Often when I'm standing in front of an orchestra or a choir, that's where I start. What is it about this music that really speaks to me? What is the story here that I just want everyone to share? And if you can get that through to the musicians you're working with and to the audience you're working with, that's what we do. That's the magic of it.
Wow, it's absolutely. And I love how also I think that it's bringing this authenticity to the art making that you're bringing, and audiences always respond to that, I feel like, and engage so strongly with that.
Oh, I agree completely with that. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this is incredible work. And so now kind of, you've been able to obviously really help build this extraordinary organization. And that means all of the functional aspects as well as all of the fun artistic parts. And just wondering, any advice you have for those out there in our audience who are looking and saying, I want to do maybe these things artistically, but I've got to build some, administrative functionality around what I want to do, those types of things. How do you balance kind of the art making and the organization building administrative aspects? Have you found challenges with that? Is there a way you approach that?
I think the what's worked for me, I've gone through various cycles of inspiration and burnout and moving forward and then being sort of blocked. And I think in the end, what my advice would be that none of us does any of this alone. And you are not going to be the best at everything. And the best advice I can give you is don't be afraid to ask and to make yourself vulnerable to say, I need help with this. I'm trying to do this. Because every step of the way to get to where border crossing is now, it's happened because just folks want to connect and help and work together on something that matters.
It's just a wonderful and amazing approach. And I think that focus on collaborations are so important. I know that's definitely a theme that's come from Schubert Club for sure, and so many others where you see sustainable work and across partnerships. And I even know my own work with Sphinx for sure was always steeped in collaborations and partnerships and others for sure. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but I always like to ask of all of my guests, this passion, right, for your work, you could see the joy for the art making and the way in which you're impacting audiences. But as we talk, whether administrative or artistic, there's got to be these times of hardship or where it feels like, whether external or otherwise, there are these factors that almost might seem insurmountable. Just wondering, as a leader, anything that you can share about mechanisms you use or approaches you have to that get you through those toughest of times.
For me, it's always about focusing on process and action. Generally, there's this overwhelming amount of things that need to be done, that need to, even from day to day, or to make the world better, or to make your organization work. But just stopping for a second and thinking, what can I do right now? Whether it's sending an email, whether it's learning a few measures of a score you're listening to, whether it's just going out for a walk and thinking about this next thing you're going to be doing, but just stopping and not letting yourself get paralyzed or beaten down and just do that one thing. Do that one thing. Keep doing that one little thing and trust that doing that one little thing eventually will allow you to hook into that larger, bigger thing that you're trying to pursue.
Ahmed Anzaldua, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Just a heads up, everyone, that my new book, Entangleism, The Small Science and Big Art of Loving Your Life, is out and available on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. I encourage you to check it out.